Hey, I'm traveling for work, and since it's like possible for me to like quick get on here and say hi, because I'm not at my house with 18 trillion things screaming at me to get done. I still plan to finish, and thank you so much for the support both during my long hiatus, like 2ish years, and then now that I had sort of come back, but am slightly hiatus again. I just wanted to say that I still want to be here, and I still log into the app sometimes and look at comments. But as you can extrapolate, as the intelligent human that you are, the marriage is over. It's the divorce is not finalized yet. It's in motion. I was hoping before the end of the year, um, and so it's one of those scenarios where I'll just say, until you walk a mile in their shoes, um, anyone knows that being a single parent is difficult. Of course, it would be, um, but as with so many things, until you're doing it, it's unbelievable. I have no time. Um, I used to think I had no time, and now I look at that and it was just like, anyway, now I have no time. So um, I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna finish it. I've been working on it. I have like notes still. I have like my next post and my outline ready to go. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to come and say this. Did I say I'm traveling for work? You can tell. Well, yeah, that was the whole basis of this. Okay, have a good one. Happy Friday. Hi. Happy Thanksgiving. Whenever you celebrate it, if you celebrate it. Let's keep going through this, I guess. I think I left off in April. It's become totally clear that it's over. Not someday, not when the girls are over. I thought I could wait until they went to college, but it just was becoming clear to me that it wasn't doing anyone any good to keep waiting. And when I finally told him that I was serious, when he realized I was serious, it's like it wasn't even sadness, remorse, or anything that crossed his face. It was disbelief. And I think I've talked in past posts about how the mornings, the early mornings before the girls were up, were just a constant battleground, I suppose. I wouldn't say battle. I just had a quiet resolve. I just knew it was over. I knew that he'd had every chance that he ever, more than he ever deserved. Did you hear me? Anybody want any barn cats content? Semi-ferals? Guess how many I can handle? Not even one? What about 4? I have problems. We started thinking about logistics is so intense. It's like, it's crazy enough to even think about ending a relationship that you've been with someone for 20 years and coming to terms with that, and then also knowing that just the moving out and the financials, and it's huge. Those of you who've been there know what I'm talking about, but that's why going through with it and actually doing it means that you kind of hit a certain point. For anyone who thinks that it's taken lightly, yeah, no. I have some notes here off to the side of things I don't want to forget. By mid-April, he had found a place that he could afford to live in. It was about 12-15 minutes away, close enough for shared custody, far enough so that I could breathe. He'd been looking at a place just around the corner, but our therapists kind of helped out with making that not a thing. May 7th was the closing of that,
And May 12th, Mother's Day, May 12th was Mother's Day. In 2024, the irony, or maybe not a coincidence, that was the day that we told the girls. We didn't tell them before that, based on therapist's advice. My therapist knew my daughters. She was technically their therapist before she became mine. And she knew that my oldest would want to immediately know where she was going to live. The questions that my therapist thought would come out after we told them that it was over, my therapist thought the question first would be, where is Dad moving? Where else will we be living? Not, why did this happen? How could you? Spoiler, she was right, my therapist. That entire month, from the knowing that he got a place to the month later closing in May, I barely slept. I was a wreck about what I was going to tell them, about how they were going to handle it, how shattered they would be, how badly it was going to go. I was just so nervous of ruining their life and having to see their reactions when it occurred to them, that when they realized that I would be ruining their life. I'm going to skip a part that I took notes on. I'll maybe come back to it. We gathered the girls in the kitchen on Mother's Day. They seemed to definitely know that something was up, just because we don't gather them and say, hey, we have to talk to you about something. He wanted to be the one to tell them. I had thought, okay, I'll give him this chance to do this. So many times I've wanted him to take charge and be the voice in past situations with his family or my family, so many situations that I wanted his leadership. And so despite my gut feeling, I was like, okay, you can do this. And he would tell me what he was thinking about saying, things like, you guys have probably noticed that. And I'd kind of been like, no, that's not what the therapists are telling us. They're just saying, you spit it out. You say what it is. Not only because you just need to say what it is, but even with starting with something like, you guys have probably noticed, what if they haven't? Then their brains feel like, should I have? So anyway, so he started, you guys have probably noticed that. No, he didn't say that, sorry. It was there's going to be changes. Your mom and I are, and he burst into tears. And it was just like, this probably sounds a bit harsh, but it was just like, you failed this too? You couldn't even do this right? Again, I know that's harsh. But the tears in that moment are not okay. We need to be reassuring, steady, calm. Our feelings need to be out of it in that moment. There can be feelings before, after, later, whatever, but in that moment, having our feelings spill out makes them think that this isn't under control, makes them think they need to be responsible for our feelings. So that was, so we told them, and my youngest didn't say a word, and my oldest just said a quiet, just single word, no. And I'll tell you later, when I followed up with her on that, I'll fill in later what she said. And then my oldest asked, where are we going to be living? We said, a cool place up the road. We have the keys. Do you want to go check it out? And then they ran into each other's arms and hugged and jumped up and down and said, we have 2 places to live. And I remember just being like, that was not how I thought it was going to go. My therapist had said, I think it's going to go, I can't remember if she said better than you're expecting, not as bad as you're expecting. And she was right. It was kind of one of those moments where it's like, wow, so I've lost sleep and grown about 60 gray hairs for the whole month that I've been dreading this, and I maybe didn't need to be doing that. Catastrophizing sometimes doesn't pan out in the way we think it will. Let's see what else I have. I'm sure there's stuff I'll come back to, but 4 days later he moved out. The U-Haul came, we loaded it, and as he drove away, it wasn't as much my husband's leaving, that felt like poignant. What was more poignant was I suddenly realized how I felt like I had carried us so much in the past. You know, it was me who toured and bought our Minnesota house, me who packed up, organized, planned that moved it all in, and then it was me who bought this house, loaded up the U-Haul. He helped me load up the U-Haul, but I drove it down here alone, got in that accident in the middle of the night north of Nashville that I've posted about. And so watching him pull out by himself was like, it's finally your turn to grow up and start living your life.